Alright, so this is the Presonus StudioLive 32 digital board. We use this on some shows, but we still use analog for a lot of shows. This board's actually pretty good. It's got a great workflow, and it's for what it is actually easy to use. So we're just going to go over some of the, if you will, features of it and sort of basically how it is used. One of the reasons why we chose the Presonus over some of the others is we have 32 channels here, and we've got 32 inputs on the back, but the best part is that each fader that's on here lines up to a input. So we don't have to switch between layers to see all of our inputs. The problem, I won't say a problem, it's with the Berhinger, the Producer Series, I think that was a 16-channel board, but at any given time, all you could see was 8. And you had to select which layer you wanted to look at as far as inputs. Now, at some point later, Berhinger did supply a firmware fix, upgrade for it, that if you pushed both of the layers at the same time, then it would show you all 16 inputs. But really, if you're looking at a digital board, I highly recommend that if you get either a 16, 24, 32, that you get the ones where you have a fader that lines up to the input that's on the rear of it. It makes it a lot easier to mix. Okay, the colors that you see here, and hopefully this is, I think this is coming in okay. I've got the lights sort of down here in the room so that you can see the colors. But like all the auxes, all the mixes here are in yellow. Down here in the purple, let's see if we can get that a little better maybe. Yeah. Here, it looks like it's a little bit light on the screen, but here it's almost like a dark violet color. But down here we've got the effects. They got 4 effects channels. Across the top, what you see here in red, this is all mute. We got soloing and blue indicating the select. And these colors, especially up here, go back to the previous versions of Presonus. If you ever worked with their first, generation and second generation of boards, in fact, I think it's also on the third, it's got the same coloring scheme. Okay, and on this, it's got its scribble strips. Now, I don't know if you can see those, but I've pulled up a scene from one of the shows that we did. But here's got kick, snare, hat, high tom, mid tom, floor tom, ride, crash. The scribble strips are nice to have. The only thing I wish we could do is see them bigger, because the font size is a little small. But it would be nice if those were bigger so we could see them. And if we look at the, let's take up one of the mixes over here. We'll take a look at one of the aux mixes. This is all yellow, and you noticed everything here turned yellow at the top. This indicates that you're in an aux mix. Now, if we went down here to select I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, anyway, down here I'm going to select one of the reverbs. And as you can tell, everything up here is turned like a violet. I think it's showing up as a light violet on the video, but it's just sort of dark. So whatever it is that you are in, it's going to change the color of the buttons. Now, those can be changed, but I probably wouldn't recommend changing unless you have something really specific. But it is really nice just to push it, and then if I have to glance back down at the board, I know that I'm in a mix. I'm in an aux mix here. I'm not in the front of house mix. As long as everything is on blue, there's a blue button right there. It says main mix. I'm back on the front of house mix. And pretty much with this board, you're always going to be like one button away from looking at the whole front of house mix. For example, just what I've been doing here, if I select one of the aux mixes, all I got to do is just push the button again, the main mix button. I'm back to the full 32 channel. Okay, here we're looking at the front of house image, if you will, of the board. We're on the main mix, so all of our faders, everything is set for front of house. And over here, whatever layer it is that you're looking at, this right here is always the master fader. So if I'm looking at front of house, this is the front of house master fader. Let's look to an aux. This is our aux level settings, like aux 1. This is the master fader, the master volume for that aux mix. Mix 2, That's your master, mix 3, master. And if we go down into the effects, which everything is sort of purple, let me just run this up here a little bit. Let's say we're adding all these effects over here. This again is the master output for the effects. And I just noticed here, and it could be the camera. If you see anything flashing, like maybe right here or other places, it's not actually flashing on the board. It looks like it's a syncing issue between the digital camera and looking at them LEDs. So if you see anything flash, it's not really flashing on the board. It's just in the it's just on if you will, on film. All right, let's take a look at an aux mix here. We're going to select this one. This is aux mix 1. As you can probably tell, there's got a signal coming in. So we're in aux mix 1, and as we move across, we can see the faders are changing their position, sort of basically representing what will be going to that particular mix. Now, see now one button away, I'm back on the front house mix. So let's say that somebody in aux mix 4, they want to hear more of a guitar. But let me back up here a little bit. When setting up a mix at the beginning of an event, when you're working on monitors, this, just by selecting the mix and moving the faders up and down as needed, works perfect. It really does. You can set everybody's auxes. Okay, this is fine. We'll leave it at that. Now let's go on to the show and we'll be mixing front of house. Now let's say that somebody wants more guitar in a particular mix. So we could do this. Now mind you, we're mixing on front of house right now and somebody points to you, I need more guitar. What you can do, we're going to pick on mix number 4, what you can do is just come over here, select it, and then, where's our guitar? Make sure I know what it is. All right. And we can run up the guitar, add more guitar to the mix, and then we can go back. That's fine, but you're moving faders again. So what we want to do, or what you can do, and once again, this is one of the main things that we liked about Presonus, not to say other digital boards can't do it, but this one really stood out for us, is let's go back to our main mix. Now let's say that somebody in aux 4 or mix 4 needs more guitar. So let's select the instrument they want to hear more of, which is on this board here, number 10. They want to hear more in aux 4. So we can go up here, select the auxes, and then as you can see up here, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. As you can see up here, on number 10, the guitarist for Dennis, these are all of his sends right here. And this is like it was on an analog board, that when you looked at a channel fader, all those knobs right above it were indicating what the sends were for that particular channel. Well, this is exactly what this is doing. So let's say number 4, they need more guitar. So without touching the front house faders, and we're not switching over to another layer, meaning mix 4 layer, all we've got to do is turn up the guitar in mix 4. And as you can tell, it went up over here. So we can fine tune the monitor mixes without having to touch the faders. Let's see here. All right, so we can go back to mix 4. Now obviously we've turned it up here, but if we look at it over here, it's turned up here as well. So instead of constantly moving the faders, especially for monitor mixes, if you just select the channel here, you can go up here into the sends and select which mix send that you want to send that instrument out to. I think that is a great, powerful feature because it keeps you away from having to constantly move faders around to make an adjustment. Okay, and over here are some user function buttons. This whole line of red right here. Basically, the way we use it for live sound is these are mute groups. And so when a band is done playing, we can just select which group of mics we want to mute. For example, mute 1 here, I've got this assigned for all the drums. So that mutes all the drums. This mutes all the instruments, and the final one here mutes all the vocal mics. So it is pretty convenient, especially if we have to do a band changeover. We can just come in and mute everybody. All right, well, I was sort of hoping to get a better view of the fat channel, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. Especially the scribble strips at the top there, they're sort of washed out in the video. But with a fat channel and their display, like this rotary knob here is the preamp. We can pan it. We can set the gate, compressor. We can set our high pass. It's a variable high pass. We can set the EQ for it. It is rather powerful, but if you're not really paying attention to what you're on over here, such as the input, the gate, compressor, and EQ, you may get sort of confused at what you're looking at up here. For example, yeah, you can tell there, the input light is on, which means all these controls up here are related to the input. Now, if I select the gate, now all these controls up here control what the gate does. Then compressor, all these controls to the compressor. We can set our EQ through here. So that's, once again, with the power that digital boards have, there comes a different discipline in knowing how to operate them. And there's a slight learning curve with any digital board, but we have found this one to be probably the most intuitive. Okay, now, along with the fat channel here, this is a usable screen. It's a touch screen. And we looked at the Soundcraft, the Performer series, before deciding on the Presonus. And the Soundcraft is a very nice board, but it really didn't provide much for the control on a touch screen. And we also found it very hard to read. So this screen is quite a bit larger, and it does allow us to actually touch things and do things on here. For example, here I've got a channel selected. What do I got here? I've got number 8 selected, which is our crash. I don't know if you can see that. Can you? That's a little bit. Let's take a look here. We get a little bit better on it. All right. So we're looking at our crash. Let me switch over here. Let's see, to a vocalist, John, Jody, Dennis, vocalist Mike. Okay, we're going to stay here on this vocalist, and as we move across here with the gate, compressor, EQ, we can set the EQ with for this vocalist either through here, or we can set it over here on the fat channel. We have there's 2 different paths to adjusting the EQ. Okay, so for example here, if we're adjusting the EQ, we can select, and I hope you can see that on there. Yeah, it's a little washed out. But here we've got, we're looking at 4 bands of the parametric EQ. Now what we can do is select this, and we can control it down here. So here we're notching it out. Or what we can do is, let's see if we can get over here on this. Well, it's sort of washed out there, but we can also control what the, so we can go back here actually. There we go. What we can do also is control the same low cut over here on this side by selecting the frequency. Low mid, let's see here. The Q, yeah, we can broaden the Q And I think you can see it's all right going on right here, or we can make that as narrow as possible. It is pretty convenient. And so let's go back into this. These controls, let's see, can you see those down here on the side? Yeah. Okay, these controls in here, gain, frequency, and Q, we can select that here and then control it also with this potentiometer. Let's select our frequency. There we go. We can slide it back and forth wherever it needs to go, and we can turn it up or down here. So we do have multiple ways of controlling different things on the board, which I always found to be a very good thing, because the more something is used, the more it wears out. I hate to say that, but it's just the way it is. And that is also a thing with the faders. The more that you move these faders around here, not the sooner they're going to wear out, but it just brings them that much closer to the motors being replaced. And that's just an unfortunate thing with a lot of digital boards. Now, for most people, that may not be an issue. It really depends on how heavily the board is used. But there are motors back behind these across all digital boards. They have these motors, and at some point, depending upon how much they're used, they will begin to wear out. Okay, and then talking about the, let me turn the master down here a little bit. There is a lot of metering that tells us what's going on. Check, 1, 2, 2. Okay, we can see it on the fat channel, and let's see if I pan down. Check, 1, 2, 2, 2. It shows up on the fader channel itself. And as well, check, 1, 2. Let's take a look at, what do we got here? Check, 1, 2, 2, 2. Check, 1, 2. So as a, for example, this is the guitar. Now, obviously, I'm talking into a guitar channel, but as the performer is playing, we can select their gate. This is the gate settings, check 1, 2. Now the gate's not on, but if I wanted to turn it on, you got this button called power. We're just going to turn that on. Now we have a gate, and you can see the gate closing up here as I'm done talking. Now I haven't said anything, but the gate is slightly working. Test 1, 2. And down it goes. And then compression, pardon me, is the same thing. Actually, let me turn the gate off because we don't need that. Turn the compressor on. Test 1, 2. Well, yeah, and actually I don't have anything. Compression attack. Let's do a ratio. Test 1, 2, 2. All right. Test 1, 2. And then here we can set the compressor for that channel. Of course, there's the input metering, there's the compression level here that we see, and it's also showing up over here. And just like before, I can select any one of these items here, which basically correlate with what's going on over here, which means that I can adjust all the gate parameters here if I wanted to, or I can come over here onto the panel, touch whatever it is I want to control, and then move it with the potentiometer over here. For example, the threshold is the one that is selected. And as you can tell, I am increasing the threshold. So there's a lot of heavy compression going on with it right now. But if I turn this potentiometer up, I'm decreasing what it's doing. Test 1, 2. And I'm allowed more signal to come through before the compressor turns on. Check 1, 2, 2. And of course we can turn off the compressor and nothing's going on. So let's see if we go back. If we go back and look at the main input screen for this, we can tell that the gate and the compressor and the limiter are turned off. So if I go to the gate over here, test 1, 2. Let's turn it on, and we'll do the compressor real quick. Turn it on. Let's go back and look at the input. Now, as you can tell, hopefully, as you can tell, there's The green line on the gate as well as the compressor, and it is indicating that they are turned on. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Okay, maybe to show some maybe a little further control of what the board has available, and considering that these are all the 32 inputs that go all the way across over here, if we want to look past 32 and look at a few other functions of the board, we've got these previous page and next page. So if we do a next page over here, now as you noticed, all these things that turn up red over here, we've got green on top, and it goes all the way over here to the end of the board. None of these are being used. And so what is available here, and you can't tell by looking at the scribble strip is sort of washed out a little bit, just from the video. But here we've got our FX return A, B, C, and D. And we've got aux in 1, 2. We've got a talkback. This is our main talkback here. So we do have the ability to look at other things on the board. Now, if we go back to, this is what our main front house mix is. But if we are also, so there's multiple ways of looking at stuff, and yeah, that's a scribble strip, so they're going to be a little washed out, but I'll try to explain it here. But if we look at the mix and FX master, now mind you, we're still in the front house mix for everything. Everything's front house. We can select that, and what it is this section of the board, from this point here over this side, allows you to look at all the auxes, the effects, subgroups, DCAs, without impacting anything over here on the front of house side. So in looking at this, we're still on a front house mix. It's blue on top, there's nothing going on, there's no yellows or anything like that. We're not looking at auxes until we get over here on the side panel over here. If I do an FX and mix master, I'm looking at all the auxes over here. So you have 1 through 8, there's 9 through 16. And then if I move it on, I've got subgroups of vocals, drums, instruments, there's bass. So what this means, and this is where we enjoy the power of this, is we can leave this as it is during a show. We can control our submixes over here if we want. We can control the effects, A, B, C, and D. And I think, yeah, that's all we got on there. Yeah. So we can control our submixes over here, still without impacting anything going on over here on the front of house. Now, albeit it's 24 channels, but we can switch over that next page over here, and we can look over to the number 32 channel. And then we have our effects returns, A, B, C, and D. So everything that we need can still be viewed on this side here of the board. If I flick it back, I've got 1 through 24, and all of this, well, all this stuff here doesn't ever change, which is pretty convenient. Of course, we can go back to it and, let's go back to it. There we go. We can switch back to our full 32 channel input. All right, well, that pretty much covers just the basics of how the board is used. They said there's a lot in here, so we can record a full show on this without a laptop. It's got an SD slot right here. We can plug an SD card in there. We just hit record, and it records a full 32 channels at once. And hopefully you've seen here that it is rather intuitive. It is, it's a lot, the workflow with it is, in my opinion, a lot better than the Berhinger, even the Allen and Heath. And there's nothing wrong with those boards. It's just the workflow with this seems a lot more intuitive. Sort of still has that analog feel. So anyway, this digital board, it's been really good. We use it along with analog boards for some shows. And anyway, I hope you found this interesting. And at some point, we hope to do a video later on, maybe focusing a little bit more on particular aspects of it, like the effects, setting up subgroups. Anyway, just to give a couple of ideas there. All right, thanks for watching.